happy, sad, disgusted, angry, fearful, bad, and surprised. Those are 7 core feelings. And then kind of all the other feelings expand out from those spaces. So, we've got good and thumbs up. Where do you each land?
Happy.
Happy. Okay. Jordan, how about you?
Yeah, just like happy, content. I guess content would be the best description for it. That's not one of the cores.
Okay, so that's right. So content isn't a core, but content is like the next layer out of happiness. Content is one of the secondary layers. So you're definitely in the right territory. Lakshmi.
Yeah, I would also say happy.
Okay, excellent. And Ritika, what about you? So of the 7 core feelings, which one are you broadcasting today? So your choices are happy, sad, disgusted, angry, fearful, bad, surprised.
Happy.
Happy. All right. So everybody is in happy territory, which is obviously a really nice place to be, but it's not the place that we always land. Absolutely. I don't know if this is like just a generally happy group, or if this is kind of the semester is winding down happiness.
Yes.
Yeah. So, which is interesting because some people might feel that happiness at the end of the semester, but some people might also feel like fearfulness, right? Or stress, or different things that expand out from there. So it's great to be in happy territory. If you're curious about feelings and broadcasting, I definitely recommend Anything by Susan David as a way of exploring self-care and this concept of feelings and broadcasting, because we're always broadcasting something to ourselves, and we're always broadcasting something to other people. And so it's important to have that awareness of those elements. All right, so Aditi knows that I didn't have anything ready for you guys earlier today, but I threw some stuff together from some other things. So I thought we'd think about self-care from the sort of context of the 5 W's, right? So who, what, when, where, and why, right? Sort of know about that from writing. So how can we transfer that over to self-care? And then finally doing that little like self-turn of, am I doing self-care? Am I doing it effectively? Am I doing it when I need to do it? Am I doing it in a variety of ways? Because we need multiple avenues for self-care, depending on the amount of time that we have, the feeling that we might be engaged in, the circumstances, the people that are around us, right? All sorts of reasons for having a variety of strategies. So we'll just go through these real quick. So who is it for? I also, Aditi and Jordan might remember that I love quotes of all sorts and think they're nice little placeholders. So Jack Kornfield says that if your compassion does not include yourself, it is incomplete. Right? And so what does that mean in this context of who is it for? Who is self-care for? It is really for everyone. Really, everybody should be engaging in self-care. This should be a part of compassion and self-compassion for everyone. And this is one of those tricky spots when it comes to self-care, because sometimes we feel like self-care isn't something that we have access to. That it's something that is a luxury that we can't engage in, that it's outside of our sort of area or realm of possibility. And really, we want to recognize that self-care is for everyone. And self-care is for it's for everyone, not just the people who maybe need it in the moment. So really thinking about self-care as kind of like a vitamin, right? Like medication, that it's a preventative that helps to keep us healthy, that helps to keep us happy, that helps to keep us engaged, that helps to keep us able to persist and adapt and continue through challenging times. So what is self-care for? Audre Lorde says that caring for myself is not self-indulgence, it is self-preservation, and that is an act of political warfare. So I think this goes back a little bit to who is it for? What is it for? These things relate. Again, self-care is not just about let me feel better about myself, let me get through this hard time. It's let me be my best self. How can self-care help me to be my best self so I can operate in the world at my highest level, so I can contribute to my community, so I can solve problems, so I can help other people? When should you do it? Eddie Hilsum says, sometimes the most important thing in a whole day is the rest we take between two breaths. So just to kind of recognize that when you should do it, all the time, right? Whenever you can. So this is, I think, another one of those self-care challenges. Sometimes we think, oh, self-care is, going to the spa, or self-care is going out with friends, or self-care is going to a long yoga class, right? All those things are lovely, right? It's fantastic if those are options within your self-care practice. But those are not always options. Those are not even the best forms of self-care, right? Self-care is really about discipline, paying attention to when you need it and doing it. And that can be in the space between two breaths, right? That quick of a moment can be effective, or 20 minutes, or 2 hours, or a full day, or 2 days. So do it when you can and where you can. So where should you do it? Right? So Maya Angelou says, as you grow older, you will discover that you have two hands, one for helping yourself and the other for helping others. And I would say, how does this apply to self-care and where you should do it? Like, do it everywhere, right? Do it anywhere. Find ways to do it in public sort of spaces when that's appropriate, to be able to model that to others, to let other people know that you value it and see the relevance and the importance of it. We learn so much by what we see happening around us. So if we're modeling self-care for other people, think about the ripple effect that is going to have. Why should we engage in self-care? Sam Owen says, how we care for ourselves gives our brain messages that shape our self-worth. So we must care for ourselves in every way, every day. Absolutely. To prioritize ourselves, to take care of ourselves in that way, that's what allows us to know that we're doing important work, that we have abilities, that we can help other people, that we serve a purpose, right? All those things come back to self-care. If we're not taking care of ourselves, if we're not taking responsibility for ourselves, if we're not engaging in self-discipline that does this work, right? All that gets to this. And are you doing it, right? That final key piece. Stephen Covey says to be patient with yourself, because self-growth is tender, it's holy ground, and there's also no greater investment, right? So self-care is really about being patient with yourself, tending to your self-growth, and being tender in that process. Knowing that there's no greater investment, but also knowing that it's not going to come easy, that there are always going to be sort of other things that seem to have the priority, other demands, other interests, other things that seem to need to get done first, but to recognize that we need to be able to invest in ourselves to do all those other things, right? So what does self-care mean to you, right? What do you think about this, like the 5 W's approach, the who, what, when, where, why? When do you feel like you are most likely to engage in self-care?
I actually just came from the museum, from the meditation museum. They needed some help with loading and unloading. And I usually drive pretty fast. And I know I had this session today, but then I was like, that was self-care for me. As I was driving, I was reminding myself that I know I'll get there, I'll get to my home before 1. it's okay. It's a new car. You want to drive it slow. You don't want to drive it too fast. But I think I could relate to it when I was, just going up and down and then here.
Yeah, I love that. Sort of the everydayness of it, that you discovered this is actually a moment to myself in this space. I could be rushing from one thing to the next, or I could give myself this little pause of recognition and realize I will get there when I get there, and I will get there on time. There's no reason to add any sort of rushed or harried approach to things, right? In my family, we always refer to Zen Moments when we drive. And it sort of started with my father, who would get irritated getting stuck at a red light. And so my sister and I said, it's just a Zen moment, right? There's like literally nothing you can do but sit there, right? Like, what's the end of the world? So we always joke about Zen moments when it comes to driving like that. But, it's interesting that you mentioned the driving piece, because I used to like commuting to and from campus, right? There was always this buffer for me driving to, like, leaving my house and driving to campus, and leaving campus and driving home. There was this buffer of space for that drive. And that was really a huge self-care opportunity for me, whether it was listening to music or listening to NPR or listening to nothing, and just allowing myself that space and time for transition. And obviously, telework, I haven't been commuting, right? I've been commuting from the downstairs to the upstairs, or the upstairs to the downstairs. It's not the same. But Lucas started going back to school, like initially 2 days a week at the start of March, I think, and now he's back 4 days a week. And so I'm getting a little bit of that, right? Like, okay, it means only like a 5-minute drive, right, to take him to and from school. But that 5 minutes in the car driving home by myself, or the 5 minutes in the car driving to school to pick him up, there is this new buffer that I forgot existed, right? So I'm right there with you, Aditi. Jordan, Ritika, Lakshmi, I see you're back on. What do you guys think? We're just talking about self-care and sort of what that means for us, how we do it. Like, are we doing it? Are we doing it on an occasional basis, on a regular basis? Are we doing it when we feel like we need it? Or are we doing it as a part of our daily experience? So just anything that you or Ritika or Jordan want to add to Aditi's contribution?
Yeah, so for me, like this week and next week is like very busy with my classes and projects and like final preparation, all of that. But whatever it is, like I make sure that, especially in the evening, like I go out on a walk. No matter how much work I have, I try to schedule it in such a way that, I get like half an hour where I just listen to music and I like enjoy walking with like nature and just de-stress and come back refreshed for the rest of the evening. And I try to do it every day, but yesterday I wasn't able to do it. For some reason, I had so much work. And I felt it, like I kept on working like constantly. And towards like around 9 p.m., I just really felt like, the difference I would feel like before versus like that day, because I didn't take that break. I just felt very heavy, and I felt like I wasn't being productive, even though I was trying to get so much work done. And that's when I realized how much important like these breaks are.
Yeah, I love that, Ritika. Sort of one, that you are building it into your daily experience, right? Like, even though things are really busy and you have a lot going on, that it's something that you have to pay attention to and make sure you keep doing. And obviously yesterday was a great example, right? Where you're like, oh man, I didn't get there. And I actually don't feel like I'm accomplishing the things that I need to accomplish. I think that's really important, because we so often feel like those other things get in the way if we don't schedule it for ourselves, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's easy for it to get lost. I know for me, a lot of self-care is about knowing yourself and knowing what you need and when you need it. And and sort of knowing your knowing your tendencies, right? So my tendency is to work and work and work and work and not to really take a break. I might get distracted and start looking at something useless. But if I don't work out at the start of the day, it's not going to happen, right? So I've found that if I'm going to work out, it has to be before I start my day. Otherwise, just forget it. And the days that I do that, I feel so much more productive. And on the days that I don't, I feel much heavier. I feel much more disappointed in myself. I don't have that same level of energy. So some similar things to you, but part of that is knowing if this is going to happen, it has to happen at this part of the day. I have to build it into this part of the day, or the day is going to get away from me.
So it is very recent that I have started paying attention to this part of my life. I had always been like very occupied, busy, and just working and working. But when I started feeling burnout, then I started like something I'm missing and what I need to do. So then I started looking at me, and if nothing else, then at least I spend like 15-20 minutes in quiet and just thinking about like what I'm doing. So I just focus on that. Maybe I can relate it to what you said, that whether you recognize yourself or whether you know what kind of person you are. So I can relate that thing to that thing. But this is what I'm like capturing on and making that part of my day-to-day activities. So I'm on the verge of it.
I like that. I like the sort of privileging the quiet, right? Giving yourself that sort of space of solitude as part of self-care. And I also love what you're saying, Lakshmi, about kind of being on, I think you said on the verge of it or something, right? It's sort of like recognizing burnout and then recognizing, okay, I need to make some changes. I need to investigate what's going on a little bit. I need to make some adjustments. Part of that is knowing myself. Yeah, absolutely. Are we going to close it out with Jordan?
Yeah, I mean, definitely one very important thing would just be being able to recognize when you do need those times to relax, whatever. I know for me, it was yesterday or the day before, but so I was giving an Oscar presentation for the fall research, or like the end of the semester spring research presentations, and I spent 3 hours just re-recording my presentation. My 5-minute presentation, I spent 3 hours only recording and re-recording it over and over again. And so after that, like, you know, there's finals, but there's all this stuff to work on. I was like, no, I'm not going to do anything the rest of the day. And just relax, pretty much. So it is, yeah, about recognizing when you need it.
Yeah. And sometimes, you know, I think sometimes, like in that example, Jordan, you know, it's recognizing I just need to do nothing. Right? Like I've been doing so much at such an intense high level with such a sort of level of scrutiny, with such a level of engagement. And now I just need to do nothing. Right? And sometimes self-care is that really just doing nothing, just taking it easy. But, you know, I like that sometimes it's being in the sort of quiet of every day, and engaging that solitude, a little bit like Lakshmi was talking about, or for Ritika was talking about, kind of like getting outside, changing the environment, changing the sort of landscape, the scenery, getting outside of the four walls of your room or your office or your home, right? That can be a game changer. Or Aditi, you're talking about kind of like just an everyday task, right? Of getting from point A to point B. How can you find a way for that to feel like self-care? And how much of that has to do with how you orient toward those moments, right? Like you didn't do anything different driving from point A to point B other than change your interaction with it and your orientation to what you were thinking about in those moments. So, you know, I think that underscores in all these examples, all four of you, you can do it anywhere. You can do it everywhere. You can do it in all different ways. You can do it For all of you, there was kind of a on your own sort of quality to what you talked about. In some cases, it's connecting with others, right? So sometimes that self-care is really that social connection, engaging with other people. So that could be a quality of it as well. So lots of different ways, lots of different strategies. I love that everybody feels happy today as they reach towards the end of the semester, despite all the things that are going on. I suspect that has, I suspect that has a lot to do with what I'm hearing from each of you and how you're thinking about self-care, right? That you're building it in and you're recognizing it. And that if we're able to do that, we're able to manage those struggles with greater ease, right? We're able to maneuver between the deadlines of a final paper or a final presentation or what's coming up this summer much more seamlessly. And that's going to lead to happiness as a core feeling, and any of the number of feelings that extend out from that space. Jordan's example was feeling content, right? That's an expansion. I'll share with you all the feelings wheel. Speaking of self-care buffers and commutes, I'm going to go pick my kid up from school, and I will have my 5-minute moment of self-care. But it was really great to see you all here, and I hope the next those last little bits of the spring semester go as easily as possible for each of you.